Alrighty, welcome back. So in the last couple of weeks, picked up another project, as you would have seen in the last video, finishing off the Tirana. I did put out the feelers that I was looking for another project and was looking along Marketplace, as I always am, and stumbled across this little old girl behind me. So she's a spicy old thing, all original, mostly all original, 1970 HG Premier. So Mediterranean blue, cashmere white roof. It's pretty honest. It's got a few dings, a few Lara Bengals here and there, but it's honest. It's one family owner since new. It's come with books. Let's take a look at this car and we'll have a quick look over it and I'll talk through what my plans are with this thing. As you can see, she's not perfect, she's not showroom condition, but she's pretty old. Like, it's an old car now, so it's showing its age, but it's pretty good. So it's had a few touch-ups that you can see here and there. It's got some chips, it's got some dents, but it's pretty honest, like I said. So original family owner since new. I think the elderly person that owned the car passed it on to the grandson. He had the grand plans of putting, I think, a small block Chev in it, and it never eventuated. So the car actually sat for 20 years unregistered without the original 186 in it. So I think the 186 had hurt itself, and then he'd pulled it out with the plans to put in a small block Chev. So originally that was my plan too. I've got a small block Chev here and a turbo 400, which would be good to put into a car like this. But since getting the car home, I think the plan now would be to just get this car going. It's pretty honest. I've had it up on the hoist. Floor pans underneath are actually pretty mint. So tracked down to 186 now, so I'm going to pick that up. We've just started cleaning up all the engine bay, slowly pulled apart the front end side of things, as you will see it's mostly been pulled apart. Give it a quick degrease. We're going to paint the engine bay. It's not going to be anything crazy, it's just going to be a tidy up, get this thing running and cruising, as I think it deserves to be put back on the road and just enjoyed for what it is, without pulling it apart and doing body work, painting it. Yeah, mainly just get it going and get this thing back to doing what it was built to do and cruising along as the good old Holden Premier. So factory 6-cylinder car, obviously. I've just been pulled apart all the front end, so the grille and everything's out of it, bonnet's off, booster, everything really, apart from it's got the original 3-speed manual back in it, or still in it, and it was on the column. It has been converted to floor shift, unfortunately, so there is a hole in the floor now. But yeah, pretty original car, not too modified, which is really good. It hasn't been played with a lot at all in its life. So I'm going to clean up the engine bay, paint it in the original satin black with the slight blue tinge to it that they did. So you can see that on the file. We're not sure if the camera will show it up, but they weren't black, they were a bit of like a gum wash black, which had maybe a bit of a white in it, so it comes out a bit bluey. So we'll do it like that, and then we'll go across the front end. I'm going to put all new bushes in it. A couple of the wheels are a bit stiff to rotate. I think this front wheel is a little bit stiff, so those tires have like 1982 date codes on it, so you can tell it hasn't had too much of a hard life. It's got touch-ups here and there, as any old car would, but yeah, like I said, just want to go across this thing and get it running, get it all up to spec, give it maybe some new brake wheel cylinders, go over the front brakes, give them an overhaul, and just get it cruising. Rust wise is really good, this car, it's not too bad. It's got a little bit in the lower quarter panel back here under the molding, which is good, so I might be able to repair this with the molding off, maybe do a touch up of paint, but that is the only real major rust in the whole car. Got a little bit in the back, or the front of the back door, it's just starting to bubble, nothing too crazy. So in retrospective of how old I guess the car is, it's pretty good. Wireframe's really good. It's got a little bit just behind the front headlight, so down here is just starting to go which is nothing too crazy, very normal for these cars. Wireframes are pretty bad in HK, T or G Holdens if you're familiar. This one's pretty good, even behind the washer bottle. I thought that it might have been a bit worse than this, but it was literally only surface rust behind all the hinges, and then all the lowers towards the bottom of the car and under the floor pans, no rust, so pretty happy with that. There's a little bit underneath on this side, I think on the K-frame where the stone tray mount goes. There's a little crack just started where that thread is there, but that is about the only rust in the wireframes that we've found. So have a look inside the interior. The interior has been done previously by the old owner. The boot is full of all the old trim out of this car. It was a sandalwood interior. He's updated it to a grey style velour trim, which is, I mean, it has been changed. It's comfy though, it's neat, so it's solid. Would be good to obviously put it back to column shift. I'm keen to do that. Whether I have to modify the carpet, so be it. Might have to put a front half in it, but it's got a stereo put in it as well with some speakers in the back. All good and well, but it does come with the original, I think up here, the factory radio blank off plate. So might put that back in if I have to. Run a Bluetooth speaker, pull the stereo back out of it. Original steering wheel come with it. It did have a wood grain one on it in the photos, so probably paint that up. Original, get it all cleaned up. Just make it look all neat, tidy, get this thing cruising. But the interior is neat. Even the roof lining's been all done, so it's not over the top, it's neat. Door trims as well. Would be good to do it all in the factory interior, but cost wise, I mean, we'll just get this thing going first, get it back on the road and enjoy it for what it is, and then we'll weigh up our options whether I decide to keep this thing or move it on. But for now, I do want to tidy up. These hubcaps are in pretty average condition, so if anyone out there's got any HK, T or G hubcaps, I know the center color might be different on different models, but keen to get some hubcaps. It does need some wheel arch moldings as well. I've been told you can't get the new ones anymore, but this is a HG Prem, so I know that they did differ from models with where they stopped with what seal mold was on them. So if anyone's got any HG Premier wheel arch moldings, this one at the back's a bit squashed. It's been in a bit of a bingle, so it's been touched up, and over the years obviously whatever's happened to these old girls, but definitely need to find another wheel arch mold, as that one's been repaired or squashed a few too many times and definitely needs to be replaced. So we'll try and track down some moldings, go across the car. The roof's pretty good. I think that'll buff up good. The rest of the car, I don't know if I want to buff it or just leave it the way it is and then clean up all the chrome work, stainless, and get this thing driving. I think it'll look pretty good. Most of it's in pretty good condition, so like I said, just want to get this thing on the road. We'll get it cruising, maybe lower the back, set of white walls, maybe Venetian, and get this thing on the road and driving. I'll show you in the boot, but it is full of parts. Still got all the original keys, but the boot is very good. So can't show you, obviously, as all the parts from all the old interior. That's the color of the trim that it was, but it's literally got all the seat covers and everything from when it was new. But inside the boot is like brand new. The paint on the floor pans is literally like this. There is no rust in this whole boot whatsoever. I'll try and get it even like spare wheel well. There's one hole, I think, down here from where it hasn't been draining. It's been sitting in here and it's just starting to go. But the paint and it, like under here, I think the rubber's just started to split. I'll lift this up here. But that is how clean the whole boot floor is in this car. So pretty good, happy with that. Even under the parcel shelf is good. So we'll give it a good tidy up. I'll get an engine in this thing, we'll get it cruising, get it running first, and then go from there. So as the front end starts to come apart, I do want to go across and get all the bolts. Most of them I do have zinc plated from previous projects. So we're going to put all new like bolts in the bonnet hinges. We'll get the grille all cleaned up, put it all back together. Got the steering box, original tail shaft and everything. You can still see, just see maybe, all original stampings. We'll get all this all tidied up. Fresh new arms, we'll give it some new front end, or a bit of a front end rebuild. Clean up those panels which I guess, go between the K-frame, Y-frame in these cars under the radiator. We'll give those a bit of a clean up. We've pulled the heater box and all that out. You can see how dry it all is in here, like it's been stored away or not in the weather too much, this car. We're sitting in a container in a storage yard apparently for 18 years, so it has been probably sweating a little bit, but it's been dry, so that is good. Hasn't been outside sitting in the weather too. We'll give it a coolant flush. This radiator is obviously the original radiator from this car. Just started putting everything away into boxes, the wiper motor, but it's pretty original and everything is in mostly really good condition, so it's going to clean up well. Like I said, the main aim for now is just getting this thing back on the road and running. So I've scored a 186, going to pick that up hopefully next week, and then we'll get stuck into doing the paint on the engine bay, clean that up, we'll paint the engine up, get this thing in the car and hopefully running in the next maybe month or two. So main aim really is just to get an engine back into this car. We'll get it running, we'll get it cruising, go across all the mechanical side of things on this car and get it sound and cruising good, and then work out what we're going to do with this thing. But in the meantime, it's time to get stuck into this thing. We'll get the engine bay painted. Keep tuned into the channel as you can follow the progress on this car, and we'll clean up this old girl and bring it back to its former glory.